Quizzes are only one half of KnowUML. The other half is coding. So you can notice here there's read options for use case and then read and draw options for sequence, class, and inheritance. We'll come back to the draw in a second, but class inheritance and class sequence and class with inheritance also, when you go to read, have an additional coding option up here. So you can basically start this and take the quiz, and you can get the quiz, or get the answers or not. It's up to you. If you just want to practice coding, that's what this is about. So you'll probably want to read this through very carefully the first time, and then you'll realize that really it's the first line here. So the code any attributes, including associations and methods, that appear in the robot class. So you're going to code this robot class here into a Java file or a Python file or whatever language you're learning this in this window. So it's currently configured to be a Java program, so that's I'll show you that one. But you can start coding this class as you need to. But you could say, like, wait, I have no idea how to code a class into Java. I've never done that before. Well, that's where underneath coding there is the hints menu and also the errors menu. Now the errors menu right now is blank because we haven't done anything. But let's just, for example, say I submit the code. Well, it'll tell me, wait, I have to write something in here. So let me do that. So I can say class robot. All right, so I put something in here and I say submit my code. Well, now I have errors. These are actually compiler errors. Robot.java1 error reach reach into file while parsing robot1. Well, that's because I don't have the full syntax. So what I can do is I can say, well, give me a hint. Let me create the shell of this class. And so that shows up here. Oh, okay, well, this is how I'm supposed to start that file. So I can say, okay, we'll submit that. All right, well, now at least I have code that compiled. And now I have a different error. So I didn't match here. So I didn't find these methods or these attributes and associations and the other things that I was expecting to find in writing this code. Well, I'm better off. And by the way, let me show you here. If I go to the badges, I've now got a compiler combatant badge because I've had a compiler failure. And I also have a hint hunter badge because I asked for a hint. So I'm actually getting credit for using the item that I am. So I'm going to go back to my current diagram. And now I can say, okay, well, you know what? I don't know how to do an attribute. So I can either have it randomly generate one of my attributes, or I can have it show me all the attributes. But I'll randomly do one of them. Okay, so this is the code for that. So I'm going to copy this code. Control-C copy, or you can type it out if you want to by hand. I'm going to paste it here. Control-V paste. All right. No, by the way, I wasn't super fancy when I built this, and maybe I should do that at some point. I don't have the right-click copy-paste stuff. I didn't do that. But you can use the built-in copy-paste or Command-C, Command-V if you're using the Mac. Those are actually good to learn as programmers if you haven't done that already, and not necessarily rely on the rest of them. But again, I put this one in here. I submit my code. Well, now I have one fewer error here. It's now not missing the height as well. So I can work my way through that and give myself another hint and say, well, show me one random operation. So notice here, I can paste that in. I have an operation. I don't have to worry about the implementation of this. You see the open curly bracket, close curly bracket. This is where the logic would go, but I don't need to worry about that at this point. So I can say submit code. All right, so I'm getting closer and closer and closer. So let me just say, okay, you know what? I'm completely lost. I don't know what I'm doing. Show me everything. Well, here I have the full answer. So I can copy this answer, I can paste this answer, submit the code. Ah, yes. There you go. So here is my solution. And I got credit for it. So if I go to my badges, you can see here constructor king CC is, sorry for the bad pun. No, I'm not. But I've coded 2 constructors out of 50 that I'm hoping that you'll code over time. The methods maestro, I coded 1 method. The attribute author, I've coded 3 attributes here. So I'm getting credit for this already. Now, there are some special ones inside of here. So cluster, So I correctly coded the entire class. I mastered the class one time. So I get credit, even though I use the hints, you get some credit for this. But be aware, there are some bonus points that you only get credit for if you use no hints at all. So it's a good place to start, but you definitely want to get better at it. You want to get to the point where you don't need to use those hints, but feel free to take advantage of whatever you need to see what's going on. So maybe code it, you're not sure, you go from there. So a few things to note here. In UML, I'm not always required to say the type. So you can see energy rating, height, and name. I don't know what the type's going to be there. Now, if this was Python, I don't care. Python doesn't care about types. Type is whatever you want it set to be. In Java, I do need a type. So if you don't see a type here in Java, just make it object. If you do see a type like leg here, then you need to make it a leg. And if there's a unlimited number of legs, you would make it a list of legs, where if it's a fixed number of legs, 2 or 6 to 10 or whatever it is, you'd make it an array of legs. That's the typical standard right there. And then if there's parameters, you need to add the parameters inside of here. So you'll see this as you go, and if you have questions, ask. But there are some conventions that you need to get used to. And if you're not sure what it's expecting in a given problem, well, that's what the hint's there for. You might not get credit for that one for the final, but again, you don't need all the credit right away. You shouldn't be looking to minimize the amount of work, but maximize the amount of learning you're doing. And really, that hint should work well because you have your intuitive feel for it, and then you can see, what the full feel for that is. So that's an example of the class diagram. Let me just really briefly show you the sequence does the same thing. But in a sequence diagram, it's actually slightly different in that what we're actually going to do is implement the method itself. That's what sequence diagrams do. And the method you're going to do is going to be told to you right away. So the first call, which is remove cookware for the pan, returning cookware, that's the one we're going to code. So when I go to my code here, again, it's blank, but if you're not sure what to do, well, let's create the shell. All right, well, we're creating a class oven. All right, well, I'm still not sure what to do. Well, you know what? In this case, let me just show everything, just to see what's going on here. Oh, okay. So let me take this and I'll paste it over here and just show you it's going to be right. But we'll make sense of this from there. So you can see I have oven here. And oven is actually an object name. So if it doesn't tell you the type of the object, we'll just assume the type of the class is the same name as the object with the capital. So oven is of oven class. And for oven to do its work, the oven has to talk to the fridge. Okay, this is a little bit of some OOism. If you don't know about this right now, it's okay. You can come back to it. But the oven needs to talk to the fridge, so I have to create that attribute of the fridge that I'm going to keep track of and talk to. Okay, and so I'm writing the method to remove cookware. And so again, that method I'm writing, and if you prefer your curly brackets on the next line or whatever, that doesn't matter. You can put it however you want to and clean up the styling however you want to. I like styling like this, looks better. But you can see I'm doing the remove cookware. And there's 2 calls that remove cookware does. So it says, well, get food, and it needs to pass in a name, and you can just pass a null or a number or whatever's supposed to be there. 0 is fine. And then the fridge comes back and gives the food back, which I don't need to do anything with. But then I need to then go to the fridge and say, well, keep this cold. And so I give it some more food to keep cold. So the same idea here is to just write the code. In the first case, with class diagrams, you're writing the class in question. In the second one, you're giving the basic outline of the class, not the whole thing, but focusing on this very first method and all the different calls this would be making. So you practice the idea of objects talking to objects as you would see in class diagrams. So you can kind of understand the goal and purposes of class diagrams and what they represent. All right, so that is the coding. Again, the submission of this is exactly the same. It all gets picked up on the back end. But it's a way for you to practice coding object diagrams into the language of your your choice, the one you're learning, in this case Java, and back and forth, and see how they go back and forth. And that'll come to the drawing part of it, which we'll talk about next.